VShojo has just confessed to a crime, specifically fraud related to the Immune Deficiency Foundation, Iron Mouse's charity that she has been championing for a very, very long time. And we have a statement from the CEO, which just blatantly confesses to it and shows not just that fraud, but also wild mismanagement of company funds for a significant period of time. Of course, I'm Andrew Esquire. This is a Legal Mindset where we teach you to be your own judge. And this is a fast facts premiere giving you the short, quick summary version of what's going on today. Now, VShojo is in massive hot water. And I told you guys days ago that this was going to lead to insolvency. This was going to lead down the road to bankruptcy. And we have today a confirmation, and I was entirely right. They are going to go absolutely bank, right? It's done. They're in the red. They've got mass amounts of debt. They're not profitable. They weren't profitable even with everybody there. There's no way to get back to profitability. They are done. And this has more severe consequences than just losing your Twitch emojis, which happened today on Twitch. The gun run global emote is gone, but they have a lot bigger problems than losing cute emotes. So we're going to look at the statement by the gun run and why this statement is absolutely insane, why it's a confession, and also why it doesn't get anybody out of personal liability, why they're still going to be held liable regardless of this statement. This statement doesn't move the yard line, doesn't shift anything really that far because this statement is only a confession and does not remove any liability of him as CEO or even personal liability, which is very, very clear in this when you look at the factual situation. So let's read through the statement very, very carefully, and then I'm going to analyze it after we go through it. So here's a statement from VShojo. This is on their X account, so you can go over and read that yourself. And you know, this is obviously unedited, etc. So I'm going to read this. VShojo has failed, and I've mismanaged the company into the situation you're all witnessing. So today I am sharing the difficult news that VShojo is shutting down. And I take full responsibility for the decisions that led us to this point. I've been doing everything I can to fundraise. Now, I'm going to pause there with fundraise. When he says fundraise, a lot of people may think that's a bake sale or this is some sort of selling cookies or whatever else. No, this is begging for money. He's talking about loans. So fundraising, he is talking about loans. He's talking about trying to borrow to keep the company going. Let's be very clear about that. So, and right the ship these past few months. I'm going to stop there as well. Months? No. This thing has been having a problem for over a year. This is a thing that they've been in financial hot waters for a very long time. This is not something that happened yesterday. It's not something that happened last month. This has been going on for a significant period of time. But despite my efforts, we're in a worse position. And those I care about now are paying the price. Over the past few years, we raised around $11 million to pursue a bold talent-first approach in VTubing, prioritizing creators and community over short-term profits to achieve long-term sustainability. I can't even imagine how he wrote that with a straight face, given what's happening right now. I cannot believe he sat out and wrote that, oh, this is what we wanted to do. This is what we're doing. No, you completely and utterly failed on that consistently over the long term. Over the long term, you abused and gaslit your talent over the long term into non-sustainability. You spent your money on wild advertising in Shibuya and everywhere else, just going out and trying to promote and advertise, spending money you didn't have to try to push these talents in places that wouldn't help them. You weren't giving them what they needed. What they needed was a paycheck, the gun run, not some weird station advertising. Okay, let's continue here. Our funding went directly to creators through generous splits, debut investments, infrastructure, concerts, events, and staffing, all designed to support them. No, that didn't actually happen. We also wanted our talent to own the IP, which we knew was a unique creator-first approach for an agency. Now, that did happen. To credit where credit is due, the talents do own the IP. I've read the contract. That's true. However, despite all of our efforts, the business failed to generate the revenue we needed to sustain that model, and we ran out of money. Additionally, I acknowledge that some of the money, now here we go, here's the confession. Some I acknowledge, so I am saying this happened. Some of the money spent by the company was raised in connection with talent activity. So he is confessing to the fact that they diverted funds which were intended to pay their talents And they're calling them talents, by the way, because if they call them employees, they'll be screwed under labor law. They're using the language specifically talent because they know that they're trying to frame talents, independent contractor. We're going to get out of that. So they owed money to the talents and they spent it. They misallocated it. And then he goes on to say, so some of the money spent by the company, so saying it was spent by the company, right? Misallocated, was raised in connection with talent activity, which I later learned, keyword he put in later learned. The words later learned are him trying to get off the hook personally. He says, I later learned was intended for a charitable initiative. What he's trying to do here is say, oh, I didn't have personal knowledge of where the money was going in my company. You know, dollars come in, dollars go out. I don't know anything that's going on. I had no idea, no knowledge that this money should have gone to a charitable initiative. We just got a massive amount of money. We just got $500,000. And it just slipped through the cracks. That's like a couple pennies just falling in the couch. In no world does this hold up under any sort of investigation. Even the most cursory investigation. You need to know where $500,000 goes. This is not 250. It's not tree fitty. This is $500,000 that just poof went somewhere. And as the CEO, you certainly have the responsibility to understand the major financial operations of your company. And yes, there's other officers that are on the line here. I know I can hear Tectone in the background skipping up. It's not just a gun run. Yes, okay, chill, Tectone, chill, bro. We all respect you, but you got to calm down. Of course, there's other people that manage the finances. There's other officers. There's the CFO that quit. There's a management officer that quit. There's other officers that have left. We talked about the officer that left 2 months ago, and he just posted, he tagged gun run. He was like, bro, what's going on? No, bro. Sorry, bro. Leaving 2 months ago doesn't get you off the hook. This thing has been going on for a while, at least in terms of the people not being paid, and also in terms of the charity misallocation. This is something that was done in the past. So if you were there as an officer 2 months ago and you quit, you're not necessarily off the hook. When the investigation looks at this and they get into the emails, they get into the documents, they get into, okay, what happened here? There at some point is going to be revealed a number of people, not just the gun run, but definitely including the gun run, that were involved in taking those funds and putting them other places. There were discussions that were had. And even if they were had in person, someone's going to crack, someone's going to break. No one wants to go to federal prison. This is wire fraud. This is misallocation of funds. This is violation of various other state and federal laws. This is no good, right? And assuming on the face that all the facts we have are true, which I have no reason to believe because they've confessed this now. They've said, no, we actually misallocated the funds. There's no further proof needed other than getting into who's liable. And if we can pierce the corporate veil, that means holding individual officers, individual employees responsible personally for these misdeeds. Yes, we need more investigation as to piercing the veil as to certain people and certain individuals, etc. And I do think there's a strong possibility that may happen. And I indeed hope that happens for some of these people trying to sink their head in the sand and say, oh, I later learned. No, bro. And let's show the proof here too. The gun run knew. He knew at the time. Here is literally the gun run saying, you did it, Mouse, October 1st, 2024. October 1st, 2024, saying you did it, Mouse. And really, the only thing that he needs to know is the feds will be looking at this post, right? So that's all he needs to know. Live tweeting during a Fast Facts. But yes, no, that's all we need to know is that statement is there. We've got pictures of him with Mouse fundraising. So we see this guy out there fundraising. We know he knew at the time, afterwards, before. He knew at all points of this. He knew what was going on. He was not an ostrich with his head in the sand. He knew what was going on. Let's finish the statement here. Let's finish the statement. At the time, we were working hard to raise additional capital to cover our costs, and I firmly believed, based on information available, we would be able to do so and cover all expenses. What that means is they were trying to get a loan. They used the money they didn't have, right? They misallocated the charity money, right, to try to pay current expenses because they thought they could get another loan. They were already in debt. They were already $2 million in debt, and they couldn't do it. And it says right here, we were unsuccessful in our fundraising efforts. I made the decision to pursue funding, and I own its consequences. I am deeply sorry. So right there, that last one too, guys, that last one is very true. I made the decision to pursue funding. What that means is he made the decision to not pay the talent and to keep the ship going a little longer. So instead of paying the talent, even if that meant they would have had to close down, instead of doing what was right and just, he decided to push it down the line. He knowingly did this, guys. He knowingly did this. This guy, and look, this is, I rarely go off, I try to stay legal and objective here, but morally, this is a horrible decision. I mean, and I think this is something that's pretty non-controversial, right? If you see that you're failing, you're in debt, you're not doing well, right? You have to, at some points, be realistic, be adults. An adult has to come in the room and say, we need to cut this and we need to do what's right. We need to pay people out. And look, I'm sure if they talked to the talent and said, hey, we're not doing well, right? We're not doing well. We need to pay the employees, right? And hey, maybe everybody across the board, including employees, we're all going to take, including the CEO, we're all going to take a haircut. Everybody at the business has to take a 25% haircut across the board because we're hurting, right? And we're all going to be in this as a team. Okay, whatever. You could have had that conversation. You could have done something. But they decided not to do that. They decided to benefit certain people at the expense of others. It's absolutely deplorable behavior and potentially criminal. Finishing up here, I am deeply sorry to all the talent, staff, friends, and community members who believe in our brand. You do not deserve this. No, and the Immune Deficiency Foundation didn't deserve this either, right? And certainly what this deserves and what this will get is criminal investigation into exactly how this went down, who made those decisions, and how that funding exactly got misallocated. So that is going to be happening absolutely for sure. I'm going to be covering this as it gets more serious, as it gets investigated, and I will catch you on the next one.